What is up, my Gaggle of Geeks, and welcome to another episode. It's Friday night, and me and Cole are feeling all right. Hopefully, because we're going to be talking about the Batman. That's right, the Batman has come out officially. It's everybody's
which Batman
watching.
Is it? Is it the
Batman?
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen,
He went
Cole.
to the Ohio State University, and he's a proud graduate. Now he's the Vengeance, the Dark Knight, the Batman.
We're talking about the first person to be infected with coronavirus, the Batman, and how that happened. Depending on what fan theories and weird speculations you go through. I don't think COVID has fan theories. I think they just have conspiracy theories. Welcome, everybody. Did we just get demonetized or what?
Wait, no, let's talk about Russia.
Oh my goodness. Now, but here's what we do need to start with. It's a thing that we always do, and that is...
It's Gaggle of Geeks. What are you geeking about?
Now, I gotta be honest. I have been geeking heavily on this new movie that I saw at Sundance, and I got to see again today. It's called Fresh. Have you seen Fresh yet?
I've not. Tell me about it.
Oh, Fresh is freaking... It's really fun. So this is basically like an American Psycho, but with Sebastian Stan as the lead.
Let's go.
And it's not necessarily like he's just disposing it because he wants to like have a release or a feeling for him, you know.
Whatever
it's strictly business. Yeah. This guy, Sebastian Stan, is straight to business with this. Okay. He's a surgeon and he knows how to use tools to carve meat and use that meat to distribute to popular people, rich people that want like, you know, a leg of someone named Bethany or like an arm of somebody named Janice. And it's terrifying, but really funny at the same time. There is a scene where he is doing his it's almost like, have you seen the Gordon Ramsay YouTube videos where he's just like the pepper, salt, carve, and it's just like really, or like maybe even the intro to Dexter. Have you seen the intro to Dexter?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Okay, so it's kind of like that, but like if Dexter was also dancing and stuff, and it was actual people that he was, you know, vacuum sealing, putting into pretty packages and sending away to people.
This is supposed to be a comedy?
This is it's a dark comedy in a lot of ways and a suspense thriller at the same time. Okay. Much like American Psycho has some like humorous moments, like anytime he talks about the music that he's playing and stuff like that, which music plays a big part in this too. Okay. He uses music when he's dancing around and stuff. And it is just a fun time. And I don't think it's going to get a lot of recognition this weekend. So if you guys don't want to go and watch the Batman in theaters, it'll be available about 45 days on HBO Max. Check out Fresh right now. It's on Hulu.
Counter programming.
Well, what have you been geeking about, Cole?
I mean, it's just the Batman, right? No, I mean, you mentioned Sebastian Stan. I started Pam and Tommy. Like, we can talk about that, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Pam and Tommy.
Exactly one episode in. It is exactly what I expected it to be, and it's wonderful. Also on Hulu.
You have no idea what's coming.
Sebastian Stan is just living on Hulu right now.
You haven't seen you haven't seen
I mean, did they show it?
Not the it's not
you can do whatever you want on Hulu. It's a Walt Disney company. I think
you're misinterpreting what I'm assuming you haven't seen yet, because if you have seen it, it would have been the first thing you had brought up.
Okay.
But I think it's episode 2. Just enjoy.
I'll be honest, actually, I haven't finished episode 1. It's what I was geeking about in the moments leading up to driving up to your house tonight.
Oh, okay. Man, it's a Sebastian standoff, and we're probably going to be standing him for quite a while, as well as Colin Farrell, because he's got 2 movies coming out, not only with the Penguin, but After Yang is now in theaters right now. So that was also something that came out in Sundance. Right. It's a pretty good film. It's a pretty slow burn. It's very what's the word? Serene, calm. Like, it's the most calm artificial intelligence movie I've seen in a long time.
That's a good way to do it.
It's very interesting. It's like sipping Earl Grey tea, but for sci-fi.
Okay.
I don't know.
I like that vibe. I mean, I'm also still catching up on Oscar stuff. Worst Person in the World, which didn't actually get a Best International. Did it? It did, but it's just up against freaking Drive My Car, which is also nominated for Best Picture, and
Flea. It's up against with Flea as well, which Flea's been nominated for 3 separate categories:
animation, doc, and
international. Yep.
Yeah.
I was a little bit confused too, but I just matched your energy of confusion. You were like,
Anyway, Worst Person in the World. She wasn't actually the worst person in the world. Big spoiler. And wonderful little film.
No, that's Vladimir Putin. But let's move over and talk about the thing that I look. We've not had this many people on our live in a long time, and that makes me happy. We've already got 2 comments too from people. Oh boy, it's just that guy. We'll talk about that later. But
he said, "Batman?" ?
Oh,
Why
you
aren't
loved
we-
Batman. You love Batman. What?
Why aren't we talking about Batman?
Batman
yet?
says what? Okay. Well, let's move over then because we need to talk about this. And this is going to be the whole episode. We're just going to be talking about the Batman. But before I do, I want to say that we have a giveaway for people too. Warner Brothers and the Batman were gracious enough to give us many of these awesome shirts.
The Batman personally gave this.
He showed up out of the shadows with his big, heavy boots and walked over to me. And I was like, oh, what did I do? And he just hands me this and he goes, bye. And they just left. And that was the end of it. It was very good. But you guys need to check out all of our stuff, like our Gaggle of Geeks page and things. Stick around to the end of, should we do maybe the spoiler-free review? At the end of the spoiler-free review, we'll give this away. And then we'll move into the spoiler review.
Solid.
Cool. All righty. Well, with that being said, I have no intro for this. Let's just get into the Batman. Well, I saw this back on Thursday of last week. You just saw this Thursday, yesterday. Colt, tell me your thoughts about the Batman.
Fresh on my mind. It was aggressively okay. There is nothing whatsoever that I can criticize about the Batman. Get your little reaction shot in now before I tell you that
did it.
It was actually fine. It's a good movie, but it's Batman. I wanted to love it. I like Batman a lot, and this one just wasn't my kind of Batman. But like we've talked about for months, that's okay. Batman's versatile. He can this is certain people's favorite Batmans now. There's a lot of 5-star little letterbox people out there for him.
See how you diminish them, little letterbox people.
Well,
what do you think? There's little gnomes that just run into the software system, just like 5 stars, and start upping
some movies. Yeah. Are we sure Sing 2 got actual 5-star reviews on Letterboxd?
Yeah, that's a whole different story. But you bring up a good point. This is not the same Batman that we've seen in other iterations,
which is good. By the way, that's not a criticism. I have other criticisms. That one isn't.
But we do have an instance where this is the closest, in my opinion, to what the Detective Comics for Batman has in store for people that read them. We finally get that version of Batman on the screen, maybe with a lot of different caveats to where his personality is at right now, where the relationship to his characters, other characters are right now. This is year 2 in the Batman saga. He's still kind of getting,
as opposed to Batman's year 1, which is
Mhm.
its own actual comic book.
Right.
Not to be confused.
He's not necessarily fully formed, but he's got in with the GCPD enough so that he's working with Gordon. He's got some situations, and there's
We're back to
characters.
Lieutenant Gordon again, not
Back to
Commish.
Lieutenant,
All right.
which, by the way, that'll be something that we'll talk about later with that. But I loved it, man, and I sat with it for a while. Right, I gave it it took a few days for me, and I took the weekend to write it down and really salivate over what my thoughts were, because immediate reactions to this stuff are never good for me. In fact, it sucks to have to put out a review immediately after a movie, because it's like my brain is so dumb. I could barely process what I ate for breakfast, let alone
I remember just anecdotally, our No Time to Die screener ended literally 50 minutes before the embargo lifted. And so if you wanted to be first on the block with a James Bond review, you got to churn out an article right then.
Sometimes you wonder if they do that
so
that they can delay it a little bit. So it's or sometimes they put it out the day of X-Men, Dark Phoenix, Fan Four Stick, any other Fox superhero film. You can always, one thing that you could always count on when it came to a Fox Marvel property is that the embargo lift the day of the movie coming out. But this was not that case. They let us be able to talk our faces off about a week before, and you can tell that if you go on Twitter. Like I said, I think this is the detective version of Batman that I've been always looking for. This is a film noir. This is This is giving references to movies like Chinatown, like Bullet with Steve McQueen in some cases.
Little Blade Runner vibes sometimes.
Gives you Blade Runner vibes. It gives you Seven vibes. Heavy Seven vibes.
Yeah,
Zodiac vibes. And it's all in this vein of a detective thriller. The Blade Runner, I think, comes from the narration in a lot of ways too. And that'll be probably the furthest we get into spoiling this, is that there is narration in the film. But if you've read the Detective Comics, you know that Batman narrates all of his stuff. Like, that's just inherent in the comics, because you can't...
an isolated hero. He doesn't have dialogue. No one other than Alfred is like his... So Spider-Man does this all the time in the comics too, because no one, not Aunt May, not Ned, whoever that is, not MJ.
Well,
like,
no
one's
from the
supposed
Ultimate,
to know that he's...
Oh, no. He's someone else. Never mind.
Yeah. But like, whatever, like, the way that Tom Holland just like takes his mask off all the time, that's not the Spider-Man from the comics. Normally it's an inner monologue of Spider-Man just like talking to himself. That's, I mean, any of our solitary heroes, when you write a comic book, that's how you communicate, is through these like narration. And so it's fun, and it matched the noir-y vibe. And so that was all like pushing in the right direction. Like
Sorry, what did you just call it?
Noir-y.
Noir-y.
Noir-y vibe.
The Niar vibe. It's true, and you can only really get inside Batman's head if you have narration, because the dialogue, he's not a very talkative person to begin with. So.
And this Batman made me believe that. Like, his Bruce Wayne also vibed in the same way, right? We're getting a little bit of a different version, but just go with it.
Well, it's not a fully formed Batman nor a fully formed Bruce Wayne. I would even counter the Batman is more formed than Bruce Wayne is, because in this, Batman is Bruce Wayne. He's not yet figured out where he needs to go as far as his personal life, what he needs to do as far as his ventures, his business that he now has to kind of oversee. Those kind of things are challenges for him, and it doesn't like he's just a little creep. When you think about it, like when he's Bruce Wayne, he's just walking around like kind of in a way where like I would just go the opposite direction of that guy, because honestly, he looks terrifying. Like he's gonna, I
mean, he looks like a guy that's
throw up everywhere.
Been a recluse for the past 20 years after his parents were murdered right in front of his face as a child.
Yeah, nobody would expect him to run anything, let alone handle himself.
Which is fun, because that's a different kind of Bruce Wayne than freaking George Clooney.
How dare you disparage Batman and Robin?
I like Batman and Robin. It's a different Batman.
That's the Adam West of the 90s.
It's a different Batman. Anyway, the other like non-spoiler thing that I think we can definitely talk about, every single performance is on point.
Yes.
Right?
Well, who do you want to break down first?
Zoe Kravitz
and Robert. Well, we didn't really talk about Robert Pattinson's performance per se.
Yeah. It's
Pattinson, he really cleared the mark. I've been talking about Pattinson being Batman before he was even cast. They were doing a lot of like pictures of who could be what after it was announced that Matt Reeves was taking over and it wasn't going to be Ben Affleck. And we saw pictures of like, who were the people that were in the running? It was the guy that played Beast. He was in it. Nicholas Hoult. He was in the running. John Hamm has always been kind of thrown in the rotation of we could do a John Hamm eventually. And sadly, I think that train's passed for him, especially now that Michael Keaton's in it.
Yeah.
They're pretty oversaturated to begin with, but there was this picture of Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne, and I was sitting there thinking, man, that would totally work as Bruce Wayne. It's still not the Bruce Wayne that I got in the end, but he worked as Batman more than I ever thought was possible. Yeah. He crushes it, and you can tell that he's read comics. You can tell that he respects the source material, that he loves this character, because even his physicality, the way that his eyes move, were so powerful. Like his eyes would express more than if he were to just punch somebody in the face in some situations. Like no dialogue whatsoever, just his movements spoke more. That's something that an incredibly talented actor could only do, and this makes him at least on par with the best of the best when it comes to Batman.
Yeah. Acting wise, this is a cut above just kind of the Marvel sheen as well. Like Pattinson doesn't fit into like fan casting perfectly. Like when people saw that, same reaction with Affleck. They're like, this the Twilight guy. No, don't give me that. But then you see it, and for people like us that have actually seen some of his other stuff, which is extremely good, like we know that he's got the chops to do it, and then he did, and he took it seriously, even though it's a dumb comic book movie, and we all get to appreciate a seriously taken comic book movie.
There's already so many people that are like, I'm not going to watch this movie because I don't want Twilight, vampire, Batman. Can we dispel that right now?
Boring take.
it's a boring take. It's not true in the slightest. And in the end, you're missing out yourself if you're not checking this out and giving him a chance to show you what his Batman is. It's the way that they use sound design for this Batman, how he walks, how he was able to actually be a detective, and not in the sense where it's like there's something literally right there and he goes, I wonder if it has something to do with that, and just like points at something. Like that's what all of the other Batman detectives were. There's a little bit of detective stuff, but really it's Christian Bale is like fingerprints, and he just makes a brick out of a thing, and then Alfred composes all of the stuff for him. It's always someone else is doing the thing. But
the brick ballistics thing was very cool, though.
There's the fingerprint.
It's really cool. It's impossible.
Is it plausible?
It's
though?
Really cool. It's a comic book, man.
If you watch that now, you're like, no,
that's still a cool part.
But this guy is so tactile. He's so DIY when it comes to his stuff. Mm-hmm. He builds his own Batmobile. He makes his own gadgets. It's very interesting to see that twist with it too, where he's not really, I'm sure he's probably relying on finances from Wayne Enterprises, but he's not like at the bottom of Wayne Enterprises building, like working with somebody that's Lucius Fox, that's an employee there, and like incriminating other people with his stuff. It's really just him and Alfred. Well, Alfred's just kind of standing off, terrified. Like, I don't know what to do with this kid. He's crazy. Yeah. I just want him to go to one business meeting, and he's painting his eyes again. Oh no.
Hey, you wore the suit. Thanks.
Again. What did you think of the suit itself, the bat suit?
Yeah, it was okay. I kind of thought it would be less. Like, so it matches the militarized kind of Christian Bale Batman, but then the Batmobile was a much sleeker, cooler, like noir Batmobile, just like a wide wing-tipped kind of thing. And so the suit with his big like combat boots and kind of like metal all over it seemed like it didn't quite match. I mean, he's got to have something that's gonna be able to punch people, but I thought it'd be a little bit more stripped down and more, but it was fine.
It was super flexible. Like they didn't have to do a scene where they talk about him moving his head. Like he already could do that too. I love the collar in this suit, like the collar design. If they do end up evolving the suit in the next films, which I'm pretty sure they're going to do. Okay. Like this is an evolution with Batman. Of course, they'll probably go for the suits as well. I think that they need to keep the collar because that's one of the best parts of this. It confirms him as the Sherlock Holmes of the DC universe in a way, because he's got that pop kind of like mysterious collar that works so well with the suit. The suit also has a lot of gadgets. It's very multi-purpose.
He used a utility belt.
Bat symbol can be detached, can be used as a knife. It's like there's a lot of really cool stuff out of the suit. But I'll agree with you. He's wearing hockey pads. Like he's kind of wearing like those shoulder pads, very hockey pad looking. Yeah. He's got the cargo pants, which like it's great for the start. But I watch and I see his suit knowing that we're going to get an evolution of it. Do you think they could go for a gray scale? Like
love it.
A gray one? I think that could be
and like
cool.
Less body armor, less, let him be the detective kind of thing. Because you that like little collar thing is one little touch, but the rest of the suit didn't. But like whatever, it's a good suit. Like it looks nice on the big
love
screen.
How much they show his face in the suit too. The cowl usually only shows about like this much of a Batman, maybe
the Bale
like
one did,
a little bit more. But this like completely shows his jawline, everything.
You're crushing on Pattinson's jawline. That's what we're saying.
He's got a defined jaw. Emphasis on the fine. Emphasis. Speaking of fun, I'm not going to go with fine. Feline. Huh? Okay. There you go. Okay. That's a transition into Zoe Kravitz's Catwoman, who nails her role in this. If you've, again, looked at the comics with Batman Year One, with really any iteration of Catwoman, she really embodies this character. I got to say, though, I still prefer Michelle Pfeiffer as the number one, because just what she was able to do at that time, bring that character to the big screen in a big, incredible way.
Hers is over the top. Like Michelle Pfeiffer is doing what we expect Catwoman to do, whereas it's younger Batman. It's also younger Catwoman. Like she's never referred to as Catwoman. She says the bat and the cat once, but she's just a cat burglar that's making her way through a grim Gotham City.
who has a past, who's got actually fleshed out backstories in this that, again, we didn't really see that much with Tim Burton's. Like, what's her backstory? Disgruntled employee gets pushed off of a window, then cat's liquor, and now she's Catwoman. That's pretty much all it is. If you break it down, that's about all. With this,
Halle Berry has like
you have reason. She has
powers.
Motivation for why she's doing what she's doing. She wants to get out of Gotham, which Gotham, we can talk more specifics about it. I freaking loved this version of Gotham with the gothic look of everything, the crown molding, the way that everything looked so lived in and kind of like historic in a lot of ways. But when you go down into the city, it just looks like everything's a dumpster fire. Like literally streets are just on fire and nobody's doing anything to stop it. It's just like,
that's Gotham.
That's Fire Lane. Just deal with that. But they have so many good like parts inside of Gotham that I really like.
We got to see a live action Arkham Asylum.
We got to see live action Arkham. Was it Asylum? It was like Hospital, Arkham Hospital or something weird like that. That was a little bit of a spoiler.
I mean, they didn't like pull back and.
Yeah. Now I lost my train of thought because I feel bad. I accidentally kind of said that. Anything, Zoe Kravitz, keep going.
She's good.
Yeah, she's good. That's anything else?
Oh, I mean, so it's her chemistry with Robert Pattinson that I think makes it and it's a different. I don't know. It's not that over the top. It's not that like crazy, like convince me that these two people are in love kind of thing. It's just her vibe matches Robert Pattinson's like laid back, and you're believing that a guy that's that broken would, I don't know, kiss this lady or whatever. Like they have a matching vibe whenever they go off together.
What are you talking about, man? I don't know if they kiss. I don't know. I haven't seen that in any of the trailers. Tyler says, give me blue and gray Batman suit. I absolutely agree. That could be super interesting. They had a picture of Ben Affleck when they were doing the Joss Whedon version of Justice League where they were like specifically changing the lighting to make the cape look a little bit blue. I would like to see that. I think that could be pretty cool. They had a little bit of an Adam West reference to me that we can actually talk about this because they put out a clip for it. There's a clip where Batman punches Gordon, and to me it feels exactly ripped out of the Batman TV show. Like you could almost put in a pow when he does it when he runs away. But they didn't. It wasn't really. It was kind of sold for laughs in the film as well. And that's the other thing about this. There's actually quite a bit of humor for as dark as this movie is. And this movie is dark.
Without
it's
it
scary.
being Marvel humor. Like that's, you can appreciate that. Right?
Yeah. Well, and most of the horror elements, the scary parts of this comes from the Riddler played by Paul Dano. Now, what did you think of this version of the Riddler, which is a steep departure from anything we've seen from a physical appearance of Riddler? This guy's completely covered up. We've mentioned Zodiac. This guy's kind of like Zodiac in a lot of ways.
I mean, he does Zodiac cipher stuff in his riddles, I guess, but like his actual inspiration is more just online conspiracy
look at the pictures
guy.
Look at comparison picture, like covering his face completely, the glasses, it all kind of checks out. But what did you think of his character and kind of his relationship with Batman?
So, one of the good things about this movie is that it was Batman has the coolest villains always. And a lot of movies, he gets overshadowed by his villains. This is more of a Batman movie. We get more Robert Pattinson. We get more background to like big ups to Mask of the Phantasm always for like, oh, it's a good Batman story. He doesn't get overshadowed by his villains. And so when I say that he doesn't get overshadowed by Paul Dano, it's not saying that Paul Dano screwed up. It's just that he doesn't do so much weird, crazy stuff that I think more about Paul Dano than I do about Robert Pattinson. This is still Pattinson's movie. This is still Batman's movie. Riddler was good, but nothing crazy.
That's interesting because for me, I think Riddler executes his duty in the role perfectly. Like the way that he is antagonizing Batman, the way that he sets up these Riddler situations, you could say, is very much kind of reminds me of Saw, where they're kind of like these horror vibes.
It was 100% Saw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love the Batman has to solve riddles. that he's got to solve riddles in this, right? And that he can do it, and that these riddles aren't like, oh, well, that's the stupidest thing. Like, no riddle that they put out made me think that it was too easy to solve or too difficult and impossible to solve.
And that's cool. The very first one, like the introduction to the concept, was the coolest riddle and was the easiest, like as I was kind of solving it along with Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get harder and they get to where you believe like, oh, Batman's just smarter than us. That's cool.
Mm-hmm. There's a terrific moment in this in regards to Riddler and Batman that we'll talk about in the spoilers that really had me on the edge of my seat in suspense because of the way that they set it up. But oh man, it was so good. Let's talk about Colin Farrell.
Okay.
Which I don't know if you guys realized, but that was Colin Farrell. Jigsaw would be very proud of the Riddler.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he'd be like, "You can ride the Triclops, the tricycle a little bit if you want. It would be cool."
He seemed a lot like one of those Jigsaw knockoffs. Like by the time we get to Saw 3, and it's like all these other people taking on the Jigsaw mantle, that's what he seemed like, because he also had that like weird online following, and he also had all that like.
Can't say more. What are you doing? This guy's spoiling stuff. Go get him. Go get him. We're not done yet, but we've gone 30 minutes so far. That's pretty crazy.
We're about halfway.
This is going
Colin
fast.
Farrell and Andy Serkis, and then spoilers.
Okay, so I'll say this for Colin Farrell. Totally immersed completely in this role. He is gone. There is no Colin Farrell. There's only Oz, which is how they refer Penguin to. Penguin's kind of like a slur more than anything, something that he doesn't necessarily like, but they all refer to him as Oz. And that's where there's some Goodfellas for me. This is the Joe Pesci character of the mafia, where like he's dark, he's gritty, but he'll make a joke every once in a while. He'll crack wise, and most of the humor was coming from him in this film. And I think people are going to get a huge kick out of him. Peacemaker did so well on HBO Max. I'm really excited to see how the Penguin does on HBO Max, especially that they're going to be kind of integrating like the Gotham PD show that they were going to do. And we got to talk about Jeffrey Wright as Gordon.
Oh yeah,
he was incredible. Awesome. He was. He just completely, like, every character in this embodied the actors embodied their characters in a way that I don't think we've ever seen before. Like in a way that felt straight from the comics, like just completely from the comics. Like there wasn't anything that Matt Reeves wanted to do that wasn't that didn't feel like it was a good like tribute, you know, that it wasn't like, well, we're going to fundamentally change everything about this character. It was, we're going to start these characters. We're going to build from there, but we're going to give you the pure essence of what these characters are about. Like what is their true motivations? And Penguin has a very strong motivation, and where he ends at the end of this really tees off where he could go. I'm really excited to see. What did you think of him?
Yeah, good supporting character, right? That's what you need out of your Batman Rogues Gallery. You're always going to have maybe too many villains, maybe a little bloated of a runtime because you're trying to get too much in there. But Oz was good. Like it wasn't bad.
Gee, man, I don't know, man. The makeup, the costume design, everything paired with that, like it makes that role one of the best things that we've seen in a Batman film to date. This was not Danny DeVito. Can we say that?
Yeah, but Danny DeVito was funny.
So was this Penguin. This Penguin was just as funny.
He was funny looking. I don't know. I mean,
oh my goodness.
Yeah,
I think you need to put more respect on his name.
It was good.
Put some respect on his name. What about Alfred? What did you think of Alfred?
Solid Alfred performance. That's just,
I wanted more. Yeah. That was the only character I was like, man, I wish, because it's not that Andy Serkis is bad in any way. It's just that he felt underused.
The movie was 2 hours and 50 minutes. We've already spent 40 minutes talking about every single character individually. Mm-hmm. I'm fine if a couple of them are underused. I could have used less of a couple of the other ones we've already talked about.
There could have been a little more out of Alfred, in my opinion, but I don't know.
You were going to sit through a 3 hour and 10 minute Batman movie?
I'd sit through a 4 hour Batman movie.
I don't not
8 hour Batman movie. I don't even care. But that's why I will acknowledge that I'm very biased in my opinion with this. I will give you some criticisms with it. I think this does have a pacing issue with its story. Uh-huh. At one point, it diverts with one specific villain group, and they complete that story, but they've still got a whole ton to wrap up.
We forget that, oh, wait, that's not even the story that we were about yet.
Yeah, and maybe that was intentional. Maybe they wanted to kind of throw it to make it seem like, you know, the day is done, the hero wins, and then give you the truth. And really dive down into that. I think that's interesting to do, but for any moviegoer that goes and watches these things, if you watched Return of the King and you watch the first
exactly what I was gonna say.
8 different endings, it can feel a little bit, it can feel a little bit sluggish and like, okay, come on. So as long as you go in with an expectation that when you think this is ending, just expect maybe a half hour more after that point, and you will still be very happy with what you're seeing. I think this is a great start to this new trilogy. Like, if there were any critiques to me, it would really just be about the editing and pacing of the second half of this film. But other than that, the story works, the characters work, the tone is incredible. Like, the tone is so good in this and so consistent.
Yeah, it's all good. So my final like thoughts before we really dive into like the spoiler reasons why is that not every movie needs to be a limited series, right? We can still make 2-hour movies, and there should still be a market for that. There is something to be said for restraint and holding back and not trying to cram everything in. Because you
sound like what the Warner Brothers Studios were saying when Zack Snyder was like, I want a 3-hour movie, and then they botched all of their versions.
Well, because it was supposed to be a 2-parter in the first place anyway. Like, he had 4 hours to play with. I would have preferred 2 different 2-hour movies. Not the point. This Batman, we spoiled a little bit that, like, oh, he's super noir, and so he does have a little of that Blade Runner VO. And guess what? That totally goes away for the length of an entire feature film in the middle of this movie. Like, there's an hour and a half where we forget that he's got like any of this monologue, and we forget who the real villain is, and we go off on that side tangent. There's a whole movie's worth of stuff in the middle of this movie that you forget what the movie's really about. And so it does have great framing, and it does like do everything right. But it is too long. And there was nothing that grabbed a hold of me and shook me and said, remember this. So it was an okay movie, and I saw Batman, but I never got a single moment in an entire movie where I was like, oh man, okay, this is his definitive Batman moment, or this is what this Riddler is, or oh man, Catwoman's gonna do this. It was just, we kept plotting from.
There's so many moments for me.
We kept plotting from like plot to plot to plot, and it was never.
It was the same plot.
It was never spectacular.
They just took a little nap about one part of it. Yeah. But we'll get into that. The last thing I want to say before we get into our spoiler review, Michael Giacchino, give him the Oscar now, please. And Greg Fraser, give him the Oscar now, please. The cinematography and the score, 2 things that this movie would not work without. The score is incredible. We reused
the Batman theme too much.
We've reused. It's a whole new theme.
His new theme we heard too often.
Wow. No. Okay. Yeah. Now we're gonna get into it. All right. Before we do that, though, let's talk really quick about this thing right here, y'all. Do you want a goddamn Batman shirt? Do you want this? You want to do some things for it?
You want to be vengeance?
You want to do some things for this? Leave a like on the video. That way we know if it's you that wants it, and whoever's liked this video, we'll pull from there, and we are going to mail you this official licensed Batman shirt. There's no trademark at the bottom. There's no like, TM, please don't sue me, Warner Brothers. I'm just a poor guy that's trying to make his way in the world. Now, this came from them, so leave a like, let us know, and before we go, we got to put this quick thing up. Oh my gosh.
Hey, buddy.
What is this guy doing here? Everybody, it's your boy Chaz. What's up?
Happy Friday. That was not a good resound.
The applause button, for some reason, wasn't on that one. Here, let me.
It was fitting, though. I get it.
So good to see you, buddy.
Thank you.
Oh, man. Well, we've been talking a little bit about the Batman. I know you've been tuning in on this, and it's good to get you on for this one particularly, because now we can talk a little bit of spoilers. And I didn't know this. Cole had to bring this up to me. Your Twitter is nothing but gush. You're just gushing everywhere about this movie, and I just want to say, I told you so. I told you so, you son of a bitch. I told you that this was going to be amazing. In your face.
You also said it was going to be R-rated, which it was not. So,
but it was close, bro. This is the closest it's ever come to an R-rated movie.
PG-13 7, PG-13. Yeah, this was.
Yep.
They say happy fucking Halloween. That's the funniest thing in the world. Like when they said that, oh, this ain't your granddaddy's Batman. Here we go.
I'm a connoisseur where you put your one fuck in a PG-13 movie.
They went full Fox with this.
That was a good fuck.
That was a good fuck. That was a good fuck.
It was used very well. And that was kind of the intro to this. You start with Riddler doing his Zodiac move, and that's where the horror comes in immediately, right? Like him just standing behind the mayor as he walks past is terrifying.
That was good.
Like that legit freaked me out. But Chaz, I want to know from you, what was the thing that made you decide this is your jam? This is the one. And don't just say Greg Fraser because he did Dune. You can't just bring it back to Dune every time. I want a real answer.
Dune so last year.
I can't wait to talk about Dune because I compare this to Dune a lot. In my mind, they are very similar in that I was just unexcited for both of them.
Okay.
What?
You? He attacked both of us. He attacked both of us on that one. Holy shit!
Two birds with one stone. Dude,
the chest. Let's hear it.
The defining moment for me was basically the car chase scene. Dude, like here's the thing. One of my favorite sequences in cinema history is Mission Impossible 6 Fallout, with the motorcycle chase sequence. To me at that time, I'm like, there's nothing that could top this. I mean, this is like peak thrilling cinematography, action, everything, stunt work. And then Matt Reeves is like, well, hold my beer, you unrelated movie, universe. We're going to top that with a epic car chase scene in a superhero movie nonetheless, which I thought was even more badass because, superhero films can feel generic, and that was not generic.
It was Mad Max in the rain. That's what I called it.
That's a good way to put it.
Mad Max in the rain.
There was not a scene in this movie that wasn't rain, though. So
that's what a noir is.
That's
what a film noir is.
That's Gotham, man.
Well, that's what this Gotham is. Not every Gotham has been that. If you've went to the Joel Schumacher Batman, if you go down that rabbit hole of neon and weird,
the big old Gothic statue.
The Statue of Liberty at Gotham for some reason.
No, there's just random giant statues all through Gotham of like Atlas and
but you know that
gods.
they had the Statue of Liberty in Batman Forever, right?
Yeah.
The whole opening sequence is going to the Statue of Liberty of Gotham.
It was beautiful.
Oh man,
if Vegas can have one, give Gotham.
Could you believe if Matt Reeves were to do that now? If they never did that in Batman Forever, and now we cut to like trying to do a hyper realistic Batman, they're like, but maybe the Statue of Liberty should be thrown in there too. Everybody would be like, you're copying No Way Home.
Did you know when they were giving Pattinson the costume test, they used the bat nipple costume?
Yeah, his head could only fit in George Clooney's costume. From what I understand, he tried on every single one, right? And the body felt closest to Kilmer, and the cowl was closest to Clooney. And so
jawline.
So he did those test things with Zoe Kravitz with him in that suit instead, which that's got to be funny. And apparently he had a lot of a sweaty problem. He was very sweaty in the suit to the point where like the scene where he's fighting Catwoman, which by the way, that opening scene with them fighting is incredible. Like when he drops down and like catches her right there, and the way that they kind of like dance and fight, and like the styles are so different. Like Catwoman is very much like defensive, but back away. Like she'll hit and she'll back up, and Batman's just kind of like walking. Like and all of his fighting, he really doesn't. He doesn't need to run.
This is not Ninja Batman. This is
he's like
Michael Myers Batman.
Yeah, he's very much like Michael Myers. That's totally true. Where he's just he will walk at his own pace. And even if the goons see him walking, he's like, I'm not gonna speed up. Yeah. I know your faces. I see you. You're on my shit list. Like you're gonna get it soon, even if it's not right now. Telling that one kid that ran away that might become Robin. Do you guys think that kid at the beginning of the subway chase that runs away is going to come back with anything?
No.
Sure.
No, nothing with him.
Dude, what?
Wait, so is this a thing that the internet is saying? Because I honestly,
everybody's saying who's who in whatever.
I also had that idea. I
References.
was like, that could be Robin. That's a cool little.
Well, I thought the kid would be the kid that he had a special bond with throughout the movie.
The mayor's kid.
Yeah, I thought that would be more like a Robin character.
I could see that, but the
That was
kid's
just
also
giving
too
him
young.
humanity.
So if they were to do a sequel and have him be Robin, that's child endangerment 100%.
Well, you'd have to age him up, and then all of a sudden, instead of having this early on Batman, which is what this Batman's shtick is, then all of a sudden to get that kid old enough to be Robin, we're all of a sudden like skip 5 years of his development as Batman, and that loses what makes this Batman cool. And so don't do that.
What's your beef with this movie?
That's
Cole?
the problem. Okay, so what's my beef with Dune? I don't have one either. It just never excited me. And so my main beef with this, it feels like it came 10 years too late. I would have been so excited for this kind of like weird goth hot topic Batman if it came right on the heels of The Dark Knight.
He's barely goth. He's like barely goth.
I don't know, dude.
Sad.
Him eating blueberries with the sunglasses on, that's pretty goth and emo.
And the way I see it, if you're going to be Batman, are you going to be the happiest person on the planet? No.
Yeah.
No, but
you're going to be depressed all the time unless you're in the suit beating the crap out of people pretending they're the ones that killed your parents.
Right. And again, that's a valid version of Batman. It's just this went all the way in on it. And that's fine. It's just not my favorite version of the character. But what I'm getting at is there was never a moment where I was really excited about this. Dune, I fell asleep during. Like, at least this is slightly better than that. But I understand that it's good filmmaking. I understand that it's got the tight plot or whatever. I'm not going to come on here and yell about plot holes. I don't care about.
You should. That's what the show is.
I don't care about that in any movies, but like especially this one that was actually a tight script. I don't really care about that. It never grabbed me the way some other Batmans have and the way that other just movies have. So yeah, it's
tighter than the skin suit on Colin Farrell. Am I right?
Ew.
Hey, I wonder how much he sweat, to be honest. Colin Farrell was so great. I love the fact that he literally waddles away. When they tie him by his legs and he literally waddles like a penguin, that's when I was like, this is amazing. They're doing things, Catwoman having actual nails, and when she claws Carmine Falcone, actually having like a nail. Those are moments where I was like, this is exactly what I had hoped to see out of a Batman
film. Do you think so? They bring in Maroni. The reason that they pronounced him Falcone in this has to be so that we don't confuse Maroni and Falcone, because it's pronounced Falcone in every other piece of Batman like audio work ever, and in this they specifically say Falcone over and over and over again. I
was actually pretty surprised that they brought in Maroni, to be honest, because it felt like that would be a little bit too much referring to Nolan. And I think that's what people keep saying, like, oh, this is very Nolan. Only because there's characters that were introduced in Nolan's universe that were still from Batman. Like they're still inherently from the Batman
Joker.
Universe. You know what? That's my one beef with this.
Whoa, what?
Good. That's my one beef with this movie. It was unnecessary.
It was so out of place.
You know what it felt like to me? And it
was a post-credit scene that they didn't want it to be a post-credit scene, and so they stick it in the middle so they can be like, oh, it wasn't a post-credit scene.
It's not the same. However, it was like the Amazing Spider-Man 2 Sinister Six. Yeah. When that guy walked down the hallway and then there's just like all of the stupid suits that they were like,
oh, look, it's the Vulture. Oh, look, it's Doc.
That's what it felt like to me too. And I don't know, if you're gonna bring in the Joker, you got to bring him in. You know what I mean? Like you can't just be through a bar, and it can't be done that way as a tease at the very end.
Is he credited? Like,
yeah, he's credited sadly at the top of IMDb. If you go to the main page, he's literally credited right next to Robert Pattinson on the front page.
That's dumb.
When you check on it, it says that he's like some officer. He's not actually the Joker. Like Officer Mustachy, not Joker Man. Like that's like the name of it.
Officer Ha Ha.
Officer Huey Ha. Huey Hoo Ha Ha. But I don't think that was necessary, to be honest. I get why they did it. They want to start planting seeds for other characters that are showing up. But if this is inherently saying that it's going to be Joker in the sequel, I'm not happy.
Here's the thing. I don't think it will. I'll be in your same boat if it is. If they take that route, I'll be like, this is dumb. I think if they're going to tease the Joker like that, because they didn't even show his whole face, right? And I think that's better. To me, I think it's the best tease you can get without having like a Batman Begins moment with the Joker card. You know what I mean? Like, at least we got to see him silhouetted, and we got to see like who this Joker might look like, because we did see some weird scarring in the hair, and then hearing.
Well, do you want to hear
right?
a little bit about that? Because Matt Reeves spoke about what this Joker actually has as far as the backstory.
Okay.
Apparently, he was born with a condition where he just smiles, like he can't not smile.
Okay, thank you, Matt Reeves. But if that's your thing, put it in the text of your movie. Don't have it as an announcement 4 days later. Like,
No, it's a tease. It's a tease. You know.
Well, that was my other thing.
I don't
There's
care.
certain things.
I hate that. I hate when directors and like authors come out and are like, "Well, actually, I meant this, this, and this." If it's cool, put it in your movie. If it's useless, don't tell me about it now.
But here's the thing: this wasn't Zack Snyder just teasing a dead Robin, like, because that was horrible. That was one of the worst things that they ever did with Batman v Superman, is just showing a dead freaking thing without showing Robin dying in that. Let me finish.
That was fine.
Hey, don't look at me. Let me finish. And what they did with this one, it's not necessarily any tease for what we're getting with a new Joker. It's just shoehorned in. It just feels like a shoehorned moment.
So the bright side look at it is maybe they're just building a texture and they're trying to flesh out this Arkham hospital or asylum, whatever it's going to be.
Then put in Polka Dot Man. That'd be hilarious. Throw in a couple Suicide Squad characters that were in Batman's universe, and there you go.
But
they wouldn't do that. It's its own thing.
If they don't have the reason I hated it is because it was Joker, and Joker feels like he dominates everything that he touches.
Oversaturated.
If it had been any other villain, I wouldn't come out of it thinking, oh man, Scarecrow, Clayface is going to show up in the next one because Clayface was in Arkham.
No, great.
Because it was the Joker, it felt like it was shoehorned. If it was anyone else, they're just like building the fabric of the universe. There's many villains during the course of like, hey, Batman just came on the scene. Maybe he's put a couple away. Maybe there's some that are going to come out, but it's because it was the Joker that it felt bad.
Yeah, another issue that I actually have with this is 4chan, the 4chan Riddlers. That's what I'm calling them.
Terrifying, dude.
The 4chan Riddlers. That, yeah, but like, do you really think 4chan's that able to like, you know, militarize?
Yes.
Have you heard of January 6th,
I don't
2021?
Like that. What? Yeah, it didn't work out very well, did it? And they didn't have a Batman. No, yeah, they did. They were the cool officers there on the Capitol that diverted stuff and were doing the right thing.
They weren't throwing them off of Gotham Square Garden, though.
No, but really, like, so little prep time, right? Very little prep time for them to get organized and do all that stuff. Also, there's no way that they would have not been caught at some point, unless there was some type of connection with. I don't think so. It just felt silly to me. That part of all the things felt like this is a little bit too.
How would they have been caught though? Because the Riddler wasn't caught until the very end.
How would they would have been caught? Well, because he's online posting, right? And you can't track where Riddler's posting his stuff. But that doesn't mean that the people that actually have usernames, they had usernames on the thing that you could track their IPs.
Have you heard of the dark web? Have you heard of like?
That's not what he was on, because that dark web that doesn't hold water, because they wouldn't put the dark web videos on the internet, like on TV. They were putting that on TV.
Yes. They would do that if it's like leaking stuff. It's encrypted. They can't have access to it. It's all encrypted. The whole website's encrypted.
Yeah.
I told you about that.
Got shared. Once it gets out, then you have that version of it that you can share and put it on TV.
Yeah, but when I was fine with this live rounds, AR-15, LOL, like those that wasn't would get in trouble and caught.
That wasn't happening on Twitter.
No, it was 4chan. It was the Riddler's Discord. Thanks. Hey guys, thanks. 500 followers. This is great.
Yeah.
And I know 500 followers means you get 1 to 2 likes per post. Like, it does not mean being a guy in this situation. That's bullshit. That's not how it would have gone down. But Gaggle of Geeks has like 500 and some odd likes. We got one person watching, and it's my wife.
Dude, I don't know though, because I mean, like, what if? I think it kind of showed like how contagious this villain mentality can be and how easy it is to sway anybody, and it could be anybody, you know, like especially because Dano does reveal his identity at the end, you know, in a very Zodiac fashion way. But then when you see those other Riddlers pop up, it makes you realize, oh, even if he's gone, it's already been tainted. Like there's gonna be people trying to copycat him, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's going to be an ongoing thing throughout. Yeah, they're probably setting up Gotham as well, the Gotham TV series. I think that's what they're probably setting up for with it, how massive this is going to be.
Well, let's talk about that interrogation scene when Batman meets Riddler and the misdirect to where
Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, the whole time. And I love that Batman's just sitting there like, shut up, dude. And he just keeps going, Bruce Wayne. And like, he's just like, stop it. Everybody in the theater is like, yeah, oh my gosh, he knows. He knows who this person is. And then when he flips and he goes, we almost got him. Then he turns. It was like, that was awesome. And then thinking that Riddler thought that if he did all this stuff, because he's doing it in the name of Batman, you don't realize it until the end, but he's doing this, which is kind of the big thing that everybody talks about when it comes to Batman and his rogues gallery, the chicken or the egg, which came first, which influenced which, right? And they did a great job of showcasing that. But when Batman kind of like tells him like, I'm not part of you, and Paul Dano has his freak out at that point.
That was good.
Amazing. Every part of that interrogation scene was great. But he loses. Batman loses in the end.
Cole, did you not like the misdirect then?
I did not, because put yourself just in Paul Dano's shoes. Why is he hammering home Bruce Wayne's name that much?
Because he was raised in the orphanage that they should have been taken care of.
Yeah, but like, why is he unloading that off on Batman right now? Like, you get to finally see Batman, who you've been building and saying, like, you're my ally. The first thing that you want to say to him is like, we did it, Batman. Not just like, Bruce Wayne. Literally, my biggest complaint about The Last Jedi, which we've had this conversation before too, is twists for the...
You really... This was going so well. You threw in the last... Why? Why would you do that? This is not The Last Jedi.
Twists for the sake of twists is the biggest sin in today's like hyper-mediaized...
But those aren't twists for the sake of being twists.
That wasn't a twist. That was a
His dialogue misdirect. Made no sense.
It's a red herring, dude. It was a red herring.
That wasn't a subversion of expectation. That was
when Chaz, you come out and just say Bruce Wayne to someone that we know that he's Bruce Wayne.
That's how he talked through the whole thing.
No, twist for the sake of a twist.
I think it says a lot about the Riddler's character in the sense that like he thought he and Batman were working together, and that he and Batman both came to the conclusion that Bruce Wayne has to be the next victim. It was like a singular mindset. You know,
he already missed him though. Like, it's not like, the same mindset. I finally got Batman. Like, hey, who do you think we should get next? Maybe Bruce Wayne. No, there was no like.
I think this is a nitpick. I think you're nitpicking on this one. It makes total sense. That was the most annoying the one person he couldn't get. That he would be a little bit like, man, we could have gotten him.
Then say that instead of teasing us with.
He did say that.
He's like, Bruce Wayne. We could have had him. It's like me saying
that's what he said,
Patrick.
And when he explains his reasoning for it, which, by the way,
okay, now delay for 2 more minutes as we have another conversation, and then say Patrick again, and then take another couple minutes.
Oh, it was not that bad. You need when he gives his reasoning, and he says that rats are chewing on his fingertips while babies are dying because it's too cold. Like, that's reason enough for me to be terrifying. Like, I totally get the motivation. I get why he hates Bruce Wayne, because here's this orphan, kind of, and he makes a point about saying that too. You're not really an orphan when you've got a rich ass tower that you live on top of. Meanwhile, we're living in your broke ass house,
right?
And having to deal with stuff, which I really enjoyed that they still like called back to Wayne Manor, but showed how decrepit and like horrible it was at that point. This Bruce Wayne doesn't care about anything with legacy. Like you said, the only legacy he has is crushing skulls. Like, that's pretty much all he wanted.
So did you guys like then how his family was tied to both narratives going on in the story?
Yeah,
like,
is Martha...
Riddler's...
Well, that's the big
someone
reveal,
that's read more comic books than me. Has that ever been done before?
Oh, yeah. So there in Flashpoint, there's actually a storyline where instead of the parents dying, Bruce dies. His dad takes on the mantle of Batman, and his mom takes on the mantle of Joker because she's been repeatedly hospitalized in Arkham and stuff. And in the comics, it is hinted at that she's related to the Arkhams.
Cool.
And it's not really like as heavy on this. And here's where I'll also get into another criticism. Thomas Wayne is not a good person, even if he was negligent in not thinking that Carmine Falcone was going to kill that journalist that was going to leak the thing. That's on him. That's still on him. He's still not a good person because he wanted something. He wanted it. When you go to a mobster and you say, will you take care of something for me? You really don't think that he's going to murder that person? That's on him. That's on him.
They don't try to absolve. Alfred tries to absolve him.
They totally try to absolve him. And they kind of end it with Batman being like, I guess he wasn't that bad of a guy.
So he's wrong.
He just didn't know. I think there's more to this. I think there's going to be more to this about Thomas Wayne as a character that we're going to learn that maybe there's a court of owls that he was a part of as well. They can reference and hint to, which, by the way, there's lots of hints and stuff to other characters that were pretty awesome. Did you guys see the Hush reference?
Well, it screamed across my screen that said "Hush." Is that the reference you're talking about?
Yeah, it was about.
So
it was like, we know Cole's got some complaints. Hush. We don't know. What else was there, Chaz? What was some of your pieces with it? What was your top and your bottom?
Bottom. I don't know, man. I think my bottom would be the fact that for a majority of the movie, it felt really grounded. And like even his fight sequences with the thugs, and that car chase sequence, like it still felt grounded enough and not superhero action packed, right? But in the third act, when he's fighting all those Riddlers, he does some, superhero moves where I'm like, but you weren't fighting this insane, in the beginning of the movie. And I'd have liked to see a build up to that, like those training moments essentially, and I mean, they kind of foreshadowed it, when he's running down the building, like with his grapple hook, before he heads out there. But I guess that's my bottom. But the top, I mean, I loved everything, dude. Most importantly, I love the chemistry between all the actors. I thought him and Zoe Kravitz had great chemistry, and I think Kravitz for me is a lot better than Michelle Pfeiffer. And I know that's I know, but I even think Colin Farrell is a better Penguin than Dan DeVito. I like the grounding of it, and I like
it's tough to compare narratives. Those two.
It is well, and I think a lot of the comparisons, like we've mentioned, it's coming off Nolan with The Dark Knight, but they're so vastly different too. Where I don't think you can compare them because yes, they're both grounded in a reality of some sort, right? Like they both feel like yes, I could totally envision this. But I think with The Dark Knight, there's a lot of like larger thematics that were at play, especially the Joker, commenting on like corruption and the overall money system, right? And that Batman does that to an extent, but it also touches more on personal stuff with like, orphans and how, they utilize Catwoman to be the what do you call it? The femme fatale or whatever. You know what I mean? Like I love the grittiness and noir of the Batman. I think it's more stylized than any of the others.
Mm-hmm. I like that you liked that because honestly, for me, it wasn't fun.
It's so
because it's going to touch different people different ways. Like it wasn't fun enough for me to like dive in like, oh boy, this is a comic book movie. I want to rewatch this 14 times like Endgame, right? I didn't complain that was 3 hours, but this is technically shorter than that. And I don't want to rewatch it. But it didn't have enough of those adult themes like Blade Runner, like all the movies we've been comparing it to, Blade Runner 7, Usual Suspects is what I thought whenever he was like unveiling himself. It wasn't good enough, like it wasn't high tier enough, it wasn't thoughty enough like a book in that way for me to like justify that. And so for me it fell in the middle and it didn't excite me. And that's if that's the only criticism that it can have, it's still really well made. It just wasn't quite adulty heady enough to be that, and it certainly was not fun or comic booky enough for me to have fun.
I thought it was fun. I thought it was lots of fun. I love detective mysteries, and they nailed that.
Do you think it has to be adulty? Because I mean, he is a young Batman, right? I mean, he's probably in his mid-20s at this point in this movie, right? Mm-hmm. And same thing, Catwoman. It's like they're so young. And my favorite, like this ending is just it ends on a different note than like any other Batman, really. And it's them racing off, and then separating, going separate ways. And he even has that shot of like her driving off in the rearview mirror. It's kind of like saying goodbye to old young friends essentially, and they're both like they have so much to learn with how massive and corrupt Gotham is, and if this is their first journey together, then like I can only imagine their growth throughout the later franchises.
Yeah. Do you think that the sequel they're going to bring back Zoe Kravitz that quickly, or do you think she's going to be returning? Because it ends with her breaking off, and that scene of them branching away from motorcycle, beautiful shots.
Yeah, I don't know, man, and I don't know what to expect going forward. I liked the chemistry, and I think Pattinson really is a solid Batman overall.
It's weird that you're already talking about like how soon can we bring Zoe Kravitz back. I'm fine if we never bring her back again because that builds the. Come on.
You don't want to see a fully realized version of a character introduced. That's the thing that bothers.
Not everything has to be the movie. Like we can assume that some things happen off screen. This is not a television show where we have
don't want her
400
back at
episodes.
all. You'd never want to see Zoe Kravitz's Catwoman.
How many
again.
of
She
these
blows the
Battinsons?
roof off?
How many? We're gonna have one every like 3 years.
Yeah, we're gonna have one every 3 goddamn years, and I'm
so
excited.
he's gonna be 40 by the time we bring Zoe Kravitz back. Like,
no. I mean,
if it's not until the 3rd or 4th movie, then that's what you're talking about realistically.
Do you
and
want
I don't
MJ
care about
back
that.
in the next Spider-Man movie?
No.
Yes, because that's gonna happen
That's
in like
bullshit.
1
That's
year.
bullshit. Then she's got to be back in the next movie.
Dude, because they went on their separate ways and at the end of the Spider-Man movie.
Well, where's she
right?
going? She going to Metropolis? Where's Zoe Kravitz going?
Zoe, I don't know, man, but like her family or history, I love that twist where we find out that Falcone's her dad. You know,
that was a great twist. That's what I loved about her backstory, is that they actually gave her something to do.
Right, and the fact how she manipulated Batman, which is very Catwoman-ish, right, to get him involved in a family thing, like, and it hits all the marks for that noir vibe that they were going for. And so, I mean, if you love noirs and like, you know, detective mysteries, I mean, this hits all the beats until like, you know, 10 minutes of the third act where it becomes just a faint superhero film, which is fine because it is a Batman film after all. You know what I mean? Like,
and let's give credit to John Turturro for playing an amazing Carmine Falcone.
Yeah,
he was fantastic in it. It's a little creepy that he was hitting on his daughter like that. That's a little. Those parts were just.
But he should be creepy. Like that's the character.
And let's talk about Peter Skarsgård as well, who I did not notice that was him. That was all taped up with the explosive around his neck.
Oh shit!
But yeah, Peter Skarsgård. He was very good in this too. For the little role he was in, a lot of people were thinking he could be Harvey Dent, and he was the DA. So like you're kind of close there, but we're probably going to see Harvey show up in a next film.
Well, and this was inspired by Batman Year One and
the Long Halloween.
The Long Halloween, and Long Halloween has a lot to do with Harvey Dent, so. And he did, and Matt Reeves has been on record saying, you know, he'd like to make Hush, like it was on Twitter today, like when they're doing their little movie thing. But he has also been on record saying he wants to explore like Calendar Man, you know, like these I know, but it's these villains I've never even heard of.
Is it at the beginning of the second movie where they just close the door and they're like, well, that's that, and then get into the story?
No, Calendar Man's actually in the Long Halloween as well. So
like, I think that would work. I don't think we'll ever see Bane in his universe.
That Venom though, that Batman took, that green.
That wasn't Venom. People keep calling that Venom. It's like it was just a shot of adrenaline. Yeah. People, no way. I've seen movies.
Why would it be green? Why would it be
Daredevil
green?
Do that? Doesn't he stab himself with something? An adrenaline shot to go?
Yeah, but he also doesn't have like a steroid addicted villain that he has to fight, like Batman, who's going to break his back. Think he
which is a major moment in a weird toxin called Venom. I have no idea if it'll work. And
if
then,
he had, we would have hated it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, dude,
so don't be over the Matt Reeves was subtle. That's good.
Yeah, he's too subtle to make that Venom, though.
No.
Yeah,
he's
too subtle to make
I think that was Venom. It was a nod to it possibly being
drops
Venom,
are the closest thing that are going to be Venom. The actual drug that the mafia is making, that will be
No
Venom.
way, dude.
This was just an adrenaline shot.
That's gonna be like Joker's henchman, I bet.
Bane's gonna be Joker's henchman. Is that what you just said?
The drop druggy dudes, you know?
Oh, okay, the drop guy. You think he can? I don't know. You see, I just don't want Joker in the next movie.
I don't either. I
think Mr. Freeze is a perfect setup for flooding Gotham and where they're going from that point on. I think Mr. Freeze would work very well. And Clayface, if they gave him make it like James McAvoy was Split, give him tons of different personalities instead of like him becoming a mudman. And I think that might work too. Or make him a mudman. Why not? But I like the hyper-realism, but I want some weird stuff too. I want the meta-human stuff.
Do you think they'll ever bring Phantasm to the live action?
Probably not.
No, not in this trilogy.
She's only cool because...
And do you really see this Batman really hitting it off with a girl in college and like then having that? And they've already kind of resolved a lot of the mob stuff in this film, right?
Yeah,
and
that backstory's passed.
Big part of Phantasm's backstory is her having the relationship. In a way, Zoe Kravitz was Phantasm in this. They took that backstory and put it on Catwoman instead. That was a very smart thing I just said. I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna just let that sit there.
We're not gonna fight it because you might be onto something.
Yeah, I'm on the Batman. That's what I'm on.
Dude, but I also want to mention that the score, I've been listening to it all day, and I agree that Michael...
Favorite song?
Probably the funeral song.
Interesting. Highway to the Anger Zone.
That dude,
I drive to work with that, and maybe that affects me, but I love it.
I show my parents that, and I also love like when the Penguin songs. I don't remember what it's called, but it has Penguin in its title. It's before the Highway song, but I think it's just moody, and I mean Cole might have a point, might play the theme a little bit too much, sure, but I think it's also like a nice nod to Danny Elfman, which I fucking think is epic.
Danny Elfman and the animated series.
In a way, yeah.
I hear a lot of. I think her name is Shirley something. Shirley Williams. She's
She composed the animated series.
Yeah, who did the
composing? Was it Sherry?
I think so. Pretty sure that's who it is. But let's see. Any other spoilers that were missing that we need to call to attention? I loved how he uses his grappling gun. I love that it shoots out from his wrist and then he can pop it out. It's not like a gun that he has to grab and then it's like shoots him out like that.
What'd you think of the parachute?
You know, a lot of people have complaints about this thing. That's what he would do.
Yeah.
At the beginning, he would have some little squirrel suit, do that flying squirrel, and it was unrealistic how hard he hit the thing when he fell. I was like, well, he's dead. Like that's a hard hit.
We kept hammering home like a rat with wings.
Yes.
Thing.
I love the Penguin is the one that got that too, and it wasn't them. And like, oh, you two are the world's greatest detectives, huh? I love that so much.
Yeah,
it's like yes. After talking, Cole, there's got to be a moment now that we've brought up that is like, you know what? For what it was, there was one good moment.
The beginning where it starts off with
the beginning,
and he's like voiceovering, and like we go to those 3 different like hoodlums vandalizing Gotham, and it's like he's describing how they're like villains are going to be afraid of the dark instead of good guys, and like he's the shadows. I
love his voice too. His bat voice was very well done.
They bring vengeance to a nice circle because like by the end he doesn't have to be avenging anything. He's a good guy now.
He gave him hope more than Superman gave anybody hope in any of his stupid movies.
Yeah, but did Batman wear an S on his chest that means hope in his native tongue?
No, he wore a cool fucking bat.
But I do think what that tells us at the end of that moment, right, where he goes, he saves the day with that, right, and as he's helping people, that lady on the stretcher grabs his arm, his gauntlet a little bit, and that narration of him talking about hope, I think that is what he comes to the realization that Batman can inspire hope, and so can Bruce Wayne.
Yeah,
that he can start moving into something more with that, and it's a kind of acknowledgement that he's gonna stray further away from the goth Bruce Wayne that you're looking for. Okay. I do expect to see more Bruce Wayne moments in the sequel. That's for sure.
Well, especially because the city's so destroyed now because of the flooding, right?
Yeah, Batman can't like throw out billions of dollars.
No, but Bruce Wayne can. I'm pretty sure that's how they're going to set Bruce Wayne being a really philanthropic billionaire. You know,
that's fascinating. That's a good idea. If I were, I would probably do it like that. Have Bruce Wayne be the one to try to clean up all the stuff as much as he can.
And I will say that that's a good one, Cole. I will say though the scene I cried it almost, by the way, and it was during the end when he's helping all those people. But the first person he helps out is that kid, right?
Yeah.
And like the music with that dude, I was just like, man, that's the Batman I love.
That poor kid's got no luck. he's constantly like, I did think it was a little funny at the funeral scene, that's a funny sentence, when the car's coming in and it's nowhere near hitting the kid, yet Batman sprints to the kid and tackles him. Like, that car wasn't going towards the kid.
It was going straight. He was in the middle.
It was already going right. I think that's that was a preemptive jump. Like maybe after he's like, I was fine. He wasn't doing that. But I loved the riddle scenes. I loved him solving the riddles. I loved his detective work, his everything. Do you want to see the white eyes in another Batman? Or do you think that Pattinson's kind of made another case for you can't do that because you're missing so much of the character if you're covering his eyes?
He's always supposed to be in the shadows, you know?
Mm.
And like I think he did a good.
That doesn't tell me if the white eyes should be white or not.
No, because what I'm saying is like even like when we do see his eyes, even though the eyes do carry the emotion, right? It's so much just about Batman's presence being there that carries the emotion. And in this movie, I mean, he's really cold, right? Like you just stand in the shadows and like you'd be like, is that his eye? Is he smiling? Is he doing anything? But he's just cold, emotionless, and just fucking brutal. you know, when being on solving cases.
I really did like his rapport with with the police department. Like those, like he's just a dick to them. Though he doesn't say shit, just like rips open carpet, doesn't explain why.
Yeah,
there's a lot of times where I was like, "Are you sure Gordon isn't commissioner?" Because Batman's getting away with basically everything. Like he's just nobody's stopping this, and everybody's listening to Gordon, even though he's just lieutenant. I don't know about that.
So,
and it's interesting that they didn't upgrade. Did they upgrade him to commission?
No,
they still haven't moved him into commissioner yet. That's interesting too.
I'm pretty sure that's what the Gotham series is probably going to explore.
He'll have to become commissioner because Penguin's becoming the head of the crime.
And dude,
family.
what about the last shot of Penguin just looking over the city, the broken city, right? Like, how foreshadowing was that?
Well, every character when they look out into the flood sees an opportunity. Like they see a chance to take over. Like this power vacuum now is opened, which again is very reminiscent of what we've seen from a previous Batman film. That there's power vacuum, and now everybody's fighting to get that spot. Meanwhile, there's a wild card coming in and doing other things. But it's different in the sense that I just don't think that like Nolan's feels more realistic to me than the Batman does. If that makes sense. Like the new Batman, this world doesn't feel as tangible as like what Gotham in Nolan's verse was like.
They're both good.
You don't think so?
I just don't think we'd not put out a fire in the middle of the road. Like there's certain things that they have, and it's just like there's just a lady drowning a baby somewhere. Like this is what that Gotham is, and I just don't think that that's realistic in the sense of I don't know.
Does it have to? So the ultimate question: Dark Knight or the Batman? Which one do you prefer?
Not comparable. I don't think they're comparable.
All movies are comparable.
You can compare the first Batman with Burton and Keaton.
No,
you can compare
all movies
Batman
are comparable.
Begins. You can compare Batman Begins. I think that's a fair comparison as well. I would say that Batman Begins is a tighter story. It's a tighter story, and it's better paced in a lot of ways. But they're building Bruce Wayne first. They spent the full first half of that movie building Bruce Wayne, when this doesn't want anything to do with that. No, this film has every intention of wanting to just show you Batman and show you the detective version. So that the intentions of the directors are very different too. So it's tough to, and it's not an origin story. It's maybe you can compare it. Would you compare it to Spider-Man: Homecoming?
I will.
I feel like that's the closest comparison.
I will compare any movie. You can compare this to
all right. Schindler's List.
Yeah,
let's
take
go.
Schindler's List.
Compare it.
No, I'm just talking better.
No.
Or worse.
You compare Schindler's List to the Batman.
Schindler's List is better.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
I'm not saying compare like nitpick every little thing.
Get him out of here.
I'm just saying, which one did you like more? If you're making a list of all 1,000 movies you've seen in your life, does Dark Knight come first? Or
I have watched
Batman?
The Dark Knight over 80 times. It's tough to compare when I've only seen the Batman one time.
Dude, I would
Is that fair? That's fair. You gotta know what you're comparing, and one viewing doesn't really give me that full scope of like. And there's time. Will this film stand the test of time that The Dark Knight is still doing? 10 years after.
You feel free to change your ranking like 5 years from now, but as you sit here today, which one is ranked higher?
The Dark Knight.
Good. Chaz.
I don't like how you did that. That was manipulative as fuck, and that hurt a little bit. That was some Riddler bullshit.
You know, here's the thing. If you put both movies in a hat and you have me draw, I'd watch whoever fucking one came out first.
So they're close.
Yeah, you know what? That's that's a better question. Ask me which one I'm going to watch again first.
The Batman.
Which one are you going to watch again?
The Batman.
Yeah, tomorrow with your wife.
Exactly.
I don't blame you. I almost saw it tonight. I mean,
I haven't even watched the Dark. That's, you know what? Here's an interesting point. I've watched every single Batman movie in like preparation for this, except The Dark Knight.
Because you've seen it so many times.
Because I've seen it so many times. Yep. The fact that I've seen that so many times, and yet this film was still able to surprise me and delight me, might say that I prefer this right now more than The Dark Knight.
That's fine.
This one feels.
I was just asking.
This one feels more fresh, if you will.
Freaky fresh.
But I also, but I think like they tackle different stuff too. So like, I don't know. They're both great in their own ways. Personally, if I'm in a darker mood, I'll go with Pattinson. If I'm just in like a more like sharper story, like Patrick was talking about, like And going purely off of performances, I'd probably go with The Dark Knight because I think Heath Ledger, you can't top that as a Joker. Like, I think he will stay the Godfather of Joker until somebody else equally as talented comes across. It's not saying that the new guy isn't talented. Like, his laugh was really creepy, and when I heard that he was cast as a Joker, I was like, really? And hearing him talk, I'm like, okay, I could kind of see it. But it was the laugh, right? But I'm like, oh, they're not going for an original Joker. They're kind of going for like a more comic, animated series Joker.
Yeah.
So it just depends on the mood. What kind of mood I want. Also, the Batman does have a cool Catwoman, and the Dark Knight only has like a girl who dies. So I don't know, a badass girl or a girl who does nothing and just dies.
Well, we can all agree that Anne Hathaway's Catwoman was underused.
Yes,
she was, especially after seeing what can be done with the character. Nolan didn't know what to do with Catwoman.
No, and I think Anne Hathaway is a good Catwoman too. I have nothing against her Catwoman at all.
I have nothing against Halle Berry's Catwoman.
Oh,
I do.
All right. Let's wrap this pony up. Let's saran wrap this face with duct tape and write lies all over it, shall we?
Don't forget your tape.
Chaz, you're welcome, first of all, and thank you for giving me the truth, saying that this was one of your favorite Batman films. I appreciate it. I feel like we've come full circle with the Dune, with the Batman, and I'd like to know your closing thoughts before I boot you out of here and we get out of this place.
On the Batman or just overall?
Mm-hmm. Thoughts on life?
What is
Russia?
Life right now?
Thoughts on...
No, dude, I would rank this as a very noir-driven Batman. It's just dark and gritty, and I think it stands out differently than the others. And I think Pattinson does a great job, and I don't really think there's any reason to doubt this as not standing the test of time in the long run. So, and I think Matt Reeves is an underrated director in that sense.
Very good. Well, thank you, my friend, for joining in. Make sure that everybody you check out Over and Under Artists Exposed. The man's doing a lot of work. He's getting all the interviews done, and they are fun to listen to. So thank you again, Chaz. We will talk to you later, okay?
Peace.
All right. Closing thoughts, Cole. I think that we adjust our levels a little bit, right? I can come to terms with there's being some significant issues in my mind.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that you've grown to kind of appreciate the vibe of this film more.
That's what I was excited to do. I love talking to people about what they are excited about. And my only, like I said, I don't have plot nitpicks. I don't have like, oh, this person was miscast or they did bad in their acting. Everything was tight.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was excited to talk to someone that was excited about it because that's the only thing that was lacking for me. I don't think I'm going to watch it again because 2 hours and 50 minutes is a lot of time, and I could watch 2 other movies that I've been meaning to watch in that time, or like half of a limited series. But it was good. It was. I really don't have anything specifically that I can point out and say this is why it's bad. It just wasn't my Batman, and that's fine.
Yep. I think that's a fair critique. I think that's very fair. And your rating, did we say the rating already for this?
So yeah, I mean, Letterboxd out of 5, I give it like a 3.5, but like leaning towards 4. It's good, and it's my 4th favorite Batman. It would go Dark Knight.
There's so many Batmans. 4's not bad.
Batman 89, Mask of the Phantasm. Then this squeezes in before Batman Forever. I don't know.
It sounded so good, and then you ended it on like the worst way to right after Batman Forever.
No, before Batman Forever.
Okay, but it's right next to it. They're touching. That's like putting a filet mignon next to a Jack in the Box taco.
Is the fact that
wrong? What is that?
Is the fact that Returns is Dark Knight Rises is probably my least favorite theatrically released Batman movie.
Over Batman and Robin.
Yeah, Batman and Robin's at least fun. Like, I've seen that one 40 times. I've only seen The Dark Knight Rises 1.5 times.
All right, I'm a little broken inside. That was
to watch it.
I don't even know how to approach that.
They're doing different things. We've had this conversation on this podcast. It's doing Adam Westy things.
And by the way, thank you so much for introducing us doing The Road to Vengeance and us talking about the games, the movies, the comics.
Animation.
We didn't talk too much about the comics, but the animation, the stuff that we loved to geek out about Batman. And I noticed that nobody has liked anything with this yet. So please, if you want this limited edition Batman t-shirt. You know, I should have said limited edition. Only God has this shirt.
Now the likes will flow in.
Now you can too. So leave a like, leave something so that I know you want this, and we will figure out a way to get you this shirt. I'm kind of on the same with you. I would probably go 4, and if after this next viewing I can appreciate it even more, which is very possible. I could see more of what you're saying as well. It could dip into a 4.5 maybe.
Yeah,
is what I'm hoping for. But I want to know what all of you good people thought. Please leave a comment down below if you've seen the Batman. If you're going to see the Batman this weekend, let us know. And yeah, this is a really good in-depth spoiler / non-spoiler discussion. I think we nailed it.
What's the next big enough movie that we can do this for?
I mean, if we want to get weird, we can get into Fantastic Beasts.
No, I don't want to
talk about justice for Johnny Depp and stuff.
No thanks.
Yeah, Thor, Love and Thunder. We can talk about Mobius. We can talk about yeah. There's not a lot of stuff.
Not for an hour and a half.
Box office predictions. Any idea where this is gonna go?
Who knows? I guess
you were so excited to not give an answer.
I mean, it's going to be #1 this week, and there's nothing really coming up that's going to be able to top it, and it's got Batman power. It's not going to come close to Spider-Man.
I'm going to say 100 mil. It's going to break 100 million opening weekend. And I'm going to say maybe it won't have the legs that Spider-Man has, but I do think it's going to hit close to the $1 billion club. I do think we're at a point where Omicron has kind of subsided a little bit, much like what was happening before Spider-Man came out. Like we were starting to open up things, and then Spider-Man subsequently kind of spread Omicron in a lot of ways because people were just going to the movie anyway. But I do think this has a lot of legs for it. Maybe not as much rewatchability as you said, because again, this is 3 hours, but Avengers Endgame was 3 hours and it broke all the records. Right. So there's definitely a possibility with that.
I don't think it's going to be fun enough. And that is not a critique of the movie, right? Schindler's List is not fun. And that is a better movie than Spider-Man No Way Home.
We need a Big Lebowski. But that's just your opinion, man. Sound to drop.
That's fine. Anyway, yeah, it's not going to, I don't think it gets to $1 billion, but it's good.
Yeah, well, that's our reviews of the Batman. Please make sure to check out the podcast. We keep doing these because we keep thinking that some of you like this, and it's pretty fun, I got to say. Thank you, Cole, for joining me for this. Make sure you guys follow Cole and all the stuff. We're going to get a link soon for you where to tell them where to follow, actually.
Yeah, so, I mean, Twitter's just @Cole Wissinger, and then I write at Inca Magazine, INQUA mag.com.
Very cool. And of course, check me out on ABC4, Good Things Utah, and on Patrick Beatty Reviews, and all of the stuff that we're doing. Next week is Turning Red, the Pixar film. So we're turning red actually with the lights that are happening right now. Eventually we'll move into a different color when we talk about something else. I don't know. Thank you everybody so much. We will see you later.